Welcome to MouseClicks TV. My name's Tim Myers, and I'm here with Don Corbett, the Linux guy, and Don's going to talk about recovering data with using Linux.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's a lot of different tools to do that, and I've gotten feedback from several of the viewers on, well, hey, why didn't you talk about this way or that way? And the short answer is two things. One, there are so many different tools to do it that picking up a particular tool, try to stay away from, and doing it through the commands makes it a little more educational. Secondly is, we've only got 8 minutes or so to cover something, so
right.
Without compressing it to the point that it makes no sense at all. But I really appreciate your suggestions, and if you got a better way that we can cover these things, please get a hold of us. So, TheLinuxGuy at mouseclickstv.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we would love to take your suggestions. But what I have here is a real case that I had to work on a couple of weeks ago. And a friend of mine's girlfriend, mother, her machine got hit by lightning. So she thought for sure that the thing was dead.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't turn it on, and what had happened was the USB got fried, part of the CPU got fried, but fortunately the disk did not get fried. So the tool that I have here is a product from a company called ThermoTake, the Black X,
mm-hmm.
and it's a neat little device that right now I have it set for a full size 5 1/4 inch drive, or 3 1/2 inch drive rather. You can tell I'm old. Versus the laptop drives, which it also allows room for that as well.
Okay.
And this is specifically designed for the SATA type drives. But often when you have a failure, it's just a component. And as long as the drive itself is intact, you actually do have a chance that you can recover your data. So what happened was, here on the screen, I was able to go in and pull up. First of all, what I did was I took a look at where did this thing get mapped on the system. And in this case, it's at a place called Media, and then the drive was called F6, F44, and a bunch of other numbers. So once I got to that, I'm able to do a list, and I can actually see things like Windows and My Music and Dell, and gee, that's a really good sign. So there's a couple of options here. We can either do a DD, which would copy and convert the data into another media. Now, the cool thing about DD, you can even use DD to copy DVDs that are copy protected.
Oh, wow.
Because that copy protection is actually software.
Mm-hmm.
And DD allows you to make an exact bit-for-bit image or block-for-block image of whatever your source device is.
Okay.
So the problem with that becomes not a technical one, but a legal one.
Right, yeah. We don't really want people to make
but,
illegal copies of software.
But I have been asked that a few times about, hey, why don't you ever mention that? Because it is true. It is a total forensics tool, and we don't care what the format is. Whatever condition this drive is, if it's got bad sectors on it, it's going to copy the image of those bad sectors.
Okay. Right.
So that gives us something, though, that we can work on so that I can still keep this pristine.
Okay.
So what I did in Jill's case here was, mounted the drive, went over, and sure enough, fast forwarding a little bit here, what we did was able to get into seeing her directory. I could go into my pictures. Oh, wrong one. Go into her my pictures here, and there are the pictures intact. So without going through a lot of the personal stuff that's in there, it was a very good sign. The next step would be then to take a USB drive, because of course we don't need to back up everything here.
Right.
What we need to back up is the stuff that's important to her.
Mm-hmm.
So we could copy this over then to a DVD, or we could copy it over to a thumb drive. Or I could get another unit and copy it over to another drive. But in either case, she needs to get a new computer. Because you can buy all kinds of surge protection and that, but if God can make lightning go through miles of the sky, there's nothing we're going to build that's going to stop that. So it's an easy tool to do. And when I plug it in fact, on my Dell Restore, I can unmount the drive, and you should always be sure that you unmount the devices before you remove them. And I know a lot of folks, they forget to do that. And you think you're lucky because, gosh, I've taken it out before and it's never been a problem. but you know, it's only going to be a problem that one time that you really need it. The other thing is each of the partitions, now Dell has their Dell partition, then they often will have a restore partition or a utility partition, and then you've got the rest of it for your data. And what Linux does, as soon as you plug this in, it mounts all three of those separately. So I have to go through here and look on this about 460 gig drive, 445 of it became a mountable, usable partition. So once that's all done, then I can shut this off in the back.
And you ejected it first, right? Or
and yeah, I unmounted it.
Like you said, that's important because it only takes one. It's just sort of like backing up your data. I don't back up. I never needed it, but that one time.
And I've got an eject button here. So the drive comes out, and you can see I've got a slot here where I can put a laptop drive in as well. Just a really, really nice tool. But when I put it back in and turn it back on, if it doesn't see the USB right off the bat, I actually have a USB start button here. Very intelligent, very simple, and clearly it works on any operating system. Anything that acknowledges USB.
Now, it's not going to work for a broken drive. I mean, it's a drive,
True.
right? It's just
yeah, the drive has to be working, but when the rest of the computer was basically toast, this is the core piece that I need. There are other tools there as well, but by doing this through Linux, you know, I can find an easy way to do this. And you can see all the different partitions that came out, the Dell partition. So this would be her data partition. I go to the My Documents, I go to her name, and I go to the, well again, the example that we used was the My Pictures. Is there somewhere? Oh, in the documents.
And you can actually hear it running.
It's clicking right along. It's not a 100% guarantee, but the results are very good. And then by having the ability to go in then command line, this is something that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do on the Windows side. I can go into the command line here, and I can forensically scan this disk as well. So I can go over, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to CD back to that media directory, which is where anything that's mounted externally is going to be in media. And then if I just hit the tab key twice, it's going to show me that I've got a Dell Restore partition, a Dell Utility partition, and the F6F, and that's my data. So I do the uppercase F, it is case sensitive, and again I can LS. There's also a command that we can do called strings, which will actually look at the entire drive as a complete device, and I can do strings for things like the @ sign and .com, and I can pull from here every @ such and such.com that she's been at that's been logged on this drive. So if perhaps if her significant other wants to know, has she been somewhere where she shouldn't be, we can scan for that kind of stuff. And remember, your computer always wins.
Right, and that seems like a very handy device, and it's expensive to have someone retrieve data.
Considerably less expensive. This is well under $100.
Great, great. Well, my name's Tim Myers. You've been watching MouseClickTV.com, and I'm here with Don Corbett, and we'll keep clicking.
We'll be clicking. Welcome to MouseClicksTV.com. I'm Don Corbett, the Linux guy, and across from me is Marcus Carr.
What up?
AKA Tree.
That's me.
And you are the Apple of our studio.
The Apple dude, let's take that.
Okay,
take that one.
okay. So what you got for us today?
Well, today I wanted to talk about file systems and a little program we have in the Mac called Disk Utility.
Okay. Now, what kind of file systems do you have available?
Let's open up Disk Utility real quick. It's under Macintosh, Applications, and we'll hit U and go straight down to Utilities. Hit D, and it'll get us close to Disk Utility.
Yeah.
Open it up, and it'll scan and see all the drives that are attached to your system. Right now I have this little USB thing.
That's a nice little hub there.
Yeah, a little hub, and I've got two. I think it's 4 gig stick sitting up here.
Very good.
They show up over.
You have those in a RAID array so that they mirror each other?
That's what we're going to do.
Oh, dude.
You'll see over here, we've got the first one. It's called Broken Windows. And the second one's called Tuck Sucks.
Oh, man.
Hey, we got to keep it
killing
real.
this. You're killing it.
So usually when you buy a flash drive or a hard drive, it comes as FAT32 or
Right.
some kind of weird thing.
Or a Windows-ish thing that has software on it that you and I don't use.
Right. OS 10 will read FAT32 and it'll write to FAT32. It'll make a FAT32 disk if you want it to. That's a big deal because if you're running boot camp, which allows you to run Windows partition or whatever, or boot from the Windows drive, you want to have it as FAT32 or NTFS, which is, I got some notes, New Technology File System. But the thing is, once you're in that Windows side, you won't be able to read the Apple side, which is good. That's how we like it. Because if the Windows side gets corrupt as they normally do,
Exactly right.
we don't want it to infect the Apple
Yeah,
side.
we do the same thing with Linux where you know, FAT32 you can read and write, but with 64 or with NTFS, if you write to it, you're cool on the Linux side. You actually can read and write to it from the Linux side too, but when you come back to Windows, Windows is going to go, oh, my registry's all screwed up, you know, because you've made changes to it that Windows was not aware of. And I think with your BSD underlying with the Apple, you got the same. We have a very compatible environment here.
Sure.
Even though we like to play like we're sparring. But, yeah.
Okay, let's go into these drives and go ahead and format one. We'll go over here to erase, and you get a couple of options here. You have Mac OS Extended Journaled, Mac OS Extended, and then we have Case Sensitive and Case Sensitive Journal, and MS-DOS, which is the FAT32.
Now, I would generally tell people don't put a journalized file system on removable media, because when you remove the media, you're going to screw up the journal.
Okay. Everything gets journaled, and we like everything to be journaled.
Okay. So you can handle that flexibility.
Sure. We don't have, like on Windows, you can just pull out the disk.
Right.
You always have to eject the disk or drag it down into garbage, and you'll always be okay.
Same with us.
Yeah, I usually do journaled on that just about everything.
Oh, okay.
Some of my drives, I do use the MS-DOS or the FAT32, just because I know I'm going to share in between several computers, and you never want to get caught out there.
Well, that's a really good security thing, though, because if somebody finds this USB drive and it's formatted for Apple, they're just going to think it's a dead drive, so you might have lost your data, but at least nobody stole your data.
Sure. Okay, I've got this first drive. I'm going to call it New Drive 1. I'm going to go ahead and hit erase. It's going to, of course, ask you if you want to do it or not, because nobody wants to do the wrong one. You'll see down here, it goes ahead and it does all the partitioning itself. Takes a couple of seconds, but it should.
Well, writing that journal takes a little bit longer the first time, but then everything after that's so much faster.
And that's
a good way to go.
It's done. So one of the other cool things you can do is you can partition the disk. And the different thing that's different about Windows, and I'm not sure about Linux, but I'm almost sure it does a GUI partition. So you can just come over here and hit the plus. It makes the second partition, and you can just take it and slide it up and move the amount of space you want.
Yeah, very good.
Go ahead and apply it. It'll ask you, and it takes a couple seconds, and it's done.
That's it. Very good way to do it. And you know, the tool looks very similar to what we have in the KDE toolkit.
Okay.
Very similar.
The last thing you can do, well, not the last thing, but one of the other things you can do is, well, if you see over here, we've got both our partitions over here, and I'm going to go ahead and go over here to RAID, and it allows you to RAID
Sure.
drives together. So you have RAID 0 and RAID 1.
For only 2 drives, that's what you'd want to do. Yeah. Now you start adding a 3rd drive, you can go to a RAID 5.
Well, RAID 5 is not supported in OS 10.
Really?
Really.
We do. Oh.
But it's so less pretty.
Yeah, it is.
What they suggest do is use a combination of RAID 1 and RAID 0.
Yep.
And kind of make up your own backing up scheme.
Interesting.
One of the other things that they offer is Time Machine. So Time Machine automatically backs up your disks. It keeps everything that you do, it kind of keeps it on another disk.
Oh, okay.
So if you're
You stay
making
in sync?
changes, yeah, if you're making changes at any point in the day, it'll record that change and you'll have a backup. One of the backups solutions that I suggest is use Time Machine with RAID, and it's mirroring each other.
Oh, very nice.
So then
Very
you
nice.
have you're writing to a disk that's writing to another disk. So you kind of have a backup solution, but it's not 100%. It's not like a
Very
a
cool.
RAID 5 or anything like
Yeah.
that, where you have one disk go out and then you can swap it out every.
But it's still really good for a personal end user. So, well, thanks, Tree. That's a great way to go, and hope you've enjoyed watching our events here, going through formatting your Mac. And I'm Don Corbett, the Linux guy. This is mouseclickstv.com. Keep on clicking.
Hi, my name's Tim Myers from MouseClicks TV, and this is a video tutorial. I've talked a little bit about how to secure your wireless network, but now I actually want to show you how to do it. Now, things are going to look a little bit different on your network depending on which router you have. I have a Linksys, so that's what I'm going to use. Now, the first thing you need to do is to change your administrator password to get into the router. The reason why you want to do that is because manufacturers will use a default password just so it makes it a little bit easier for you to get things up and going. Now, so what you want to do in order to do that is you will click the administrator tab here, as long as you're using the Linksys. So we'll go ahead and do that. And as you can see, this is where the router password is. Now, I believe for a Linksys, that is actually left blank. So what you would do when you set up your routers, you would just enter in the admin username and then press enter, and it would let you in because there is no password set. Now, the second thing you should do once you're up online is to turn on some type of encryption, whether it be WPA or WEP. And how you do that is you're going to go to wireless, and then you're going to choose wireless security. And this is where you would choose which type of encryption you want to use. What this does is this encrypts traffic going across, and no one can capture any of that stuff. So you've got a choice of WEP, which is not the best type of encryption, but it is better than nothing. So if that's all you have for your wireless router, choose WEP by all means. Don't just neglect setting it to something that you have available. WEP or WPA Personal, WPA2 Personal, and the others, WPA Enterprise, WPA Enterprise 2, Radius, are all more or less for corporations or businesses or disabled. But like I said, you don't want it disabled. You want to choose something, whether it's the WEP, which is not the best, but it's better than nothing. What I chose is WPA2 Personal. And you can see down here what my passphrase is. You'll have to choose a passphrase, and this is just something I have put in right now just so I can show you what can be in there and how long it can be. I chose it all the way to dog, so that's quite a large passphrase. But if it should be something you can remember. That's the best thing to do. The next thing you need to do is you need to change what's called an SSID. And what the SSID is, it's the name of your router. And you can do that by clicking wireless here. And this is what I've done, again, just so I can show you what something looks like. I have chosen the name Wolf, and that's the name again of your router. And really what you also want to do, even after you change the SSID, is to disable it. I've got mine enabled here, but you really want to disable it. And I can show you why. If you look over here to these bars right here, you can see that my router's name is Wolf. But the thing is, if you click on that, all of these are being broadcast too. You see this one called Chris, Little Fish, 2-Wire, 368, Basic 6, Netgear, and all of these are being broadcast. Earlier I saw another one down here which was called Linksys, and also it was unsecure. Now you can tell if it's unsecure by if you look here, you'll see where it says name, Netgear 2.4G, and let's go back up there so we can see the rest of it. Signal strength is poor because I'm actually upstairs and my router is downstairs in my dining room, living room area, and it's an 802.11G, and you can see, again, pull that up, that it is encrypted WPA2-PSK. And again, with Basic 6, you can see the same thing, 802.11G. And they're using a little bit not as strong encryption. It was, we'll go back up there, it was WEP. And all of these are broadcasting their SSID. And I am too, because I wanted to show you. Again, I was saying that there was Linksys was down here, which was broadcasting its SSID. Linksys is the default SSID for Linksys. Now, what is very interesting about that is if there's a hacker out there somewhere and he sees Linksys, he knows, or she knows, that you haven't really taken the time to secure your router because obviously you're using the same SSID that the manufacturer uses for all of their Linksys. So make sure you, at least at a minimum, change the SSID, and don't forget to use encryption as well. The next thing you want to do is you really want to enable firewalls on each computer and the router. Now, you can choose any firewall you choose for Windows. Minimum, use Windows Firewall. There's some other good ones out there. For example, Zone Alarm is a good one. You can use that if you choose. But to enable firewalls on the router, let's see here, we go to security here, and just make sure that SPI firewall protection is enabled. You're also, every time you go to one of these screens, I forgot to tell you, but you do want to click Save Settings. You always want to save settings or else they probably won't take. Now, one of the last things you should do, now this is probably not going to sound obvious, and you might not be able to do it because it involves moving a router. What you would need to do is you need to take your router and move it as close as possible to the interior of your house. And the reason why is because if your computer and router is next to an outside wall, then of course you're going to broadcast to the outside, and then anybody driving by your house, if you don't have any encryption, WPA, WEP, are going to be able to possibly connect to your router, and if they can't, they may try to attack it. Like I said, these right here, these are not mine. Oh, there's that Linksys I was talking to you about, and if you look, it's not secured. It says unsecured. Anyway, back to putting your router next to a wall. You can see all these are not mine. These are from other houses around mine. So you really, you want to try to move it as far as you can to the center of the house. You're probably, it's possible that you'll still get leaked, but better safe than sorry. I actually had a friend one time ask me, do I really need to have a firewall on my router and a software firewall? Isn't that a little overprotective? And the answer to that is no. Nothing, if it's going to protect your computer, is overreacting or anything like that. You really need to protect your router as much as you can. Well, that's it. Thank you for watching. My name is Tim Myers from MouseClicks TV, and this was a video tutorial.